Anas El-Gomati. He's the director of Sadeq Institute, Libya's first independent public policy think tank. Thanks so much indeed for being with us today. So what are your impressions of the men who will lead this transitional government, and why have they been chosen?
Well, it's a shocker. I think to answer your first question, it's something that many analysts and diplomats alike had not anticipated. And I certainly think that there is, a lot of shock really in Western capitals and European capitals, but also amongst Libyans themselves. I think there had been almost a suspicion that the very actors that had been responsible for the conflict, particularly those in the eastern camp and Khalifa Haftar's camp, would come out of this victorious. And the winners essentially are part of a list of individuals that really did not look like they were the front runners until very, very late yesterday, until they were part of the second runoff of two lists. So I think in that sense, it's quite interesting. I think, we have many ways in which to interpret this. The new leader or the new president of the Presidential Council, Mohammed al-Menfi, is a former ambassador to Greece. He was expelled from Greece after Libya signed, or the GNA signed, a maritime deal with Turkey. And so he is an individual that has a political career, but he doesn't necessarily represent any of the major political camps. He's joined by two deputies, one from the west of Libya, al-Lafi, and from the south of Libya, al-Koni. And he is also presiding over a prime minister that will be led by Abdul Hamid Dbeibah from Masrata. These individuals do not necessarily have long political careers. Musa al-Koni was a former member of the last GNA until he resigned. So I would say in very simple terms, these are individuals that don't necessarily represent the principal camps responsible for the last war. And I think that means that there are a lot of losers today in this political process. And I think it's going to be a very long 12 months. Personally, I think we could see a resumption of conflicts. We don't know how Khalifa Haftar and his ally, Aqil al-Saleh, may respond to this. Now, we should go back 6-7 years because we shouldn't wrench this from its context. The last time the UN presided over a unity government, they established a very similar configuration led by an unknown individual, Fayez Sarraj. Now, this had happened before, and I think we could see a similarity. We could see that that the Eastern camp respond as they did in 2016-17 by rejecting this interim government. We know that it will be around for a year. There are also other mechanisms to demonstrate their rejection. They could do that through the parliament. They have some representatives that Aqil al-Saleh, the candidate, really from the Libyan National Army or Libyan Arab Armed Forces, he still controls that, and he could still reject or take control and apply leverage to the new government. Or we could also see in the military unification track, Haftar apply some resistance. He could do that through as I said, the unification track. He could also do it, as he has done for the last several years, by blocking Libya's oil. It's going to be a long 12 months until December, rather 9 or 10 months, until December 24th, 2021, when we have scheduled democratic elections for the presidency and the parliament. And I think it's going to be a difficult road, not only for Libyans, but for the UN itself.
Absolutely, a lot to unpick there. But the thing that struck me is that you suggested there that you don't think that even though this political process is underway, that this is going to mark an end to the conflict in Libya.
No, I mean, the last conflict that began the rejection of the Presidential Council that has just been formed begins in 2017 after Khalifa Haftar and his ally Aqil al-Saleh rejected this. Now, we have the Berlin process that essentially culminated years of shuttle diplomacy between Paris, Abu Dhabi and Palermo to try to unify the government of national accord and the Libyan National Army or Libyan Arab Armed Forces under Khalifa Haftar by reforming the Presidential Council. The Berlin process, that was a conference that took place almost 13 months ago now in Berlin prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, that said we're going to reconstruct and reform the Presidential Council so that it's functioning. Its dysfunction originates from Aqil al-Saleh and Khalifa Haftar's rejection of it. Today, it seems like early indications are that they've actually accepted it. So, it's very, very early on. It's too early to tell. But their main candidate, Aqil al-Saleh, just lost this presidential list. Or he just lost in the presidential vote to become the next president. So it's very, very early. Like I said, the two main principal camps here are not represented at the table, at least not directly. Now, indirectly, we could see some alliance building. We could see, a new unity government that is established through many names that they try to bring in to a cabinet. There's many ways that this could play out. But like I said, this is something that analysts and diplomats alike did not foresee. So it's going to be a long, difficult journey. And as I've said before, it's going to be stress testing for the UN. There are going to be a lot of spoilers who are not at the table, who are not in the next government, they're going to be testing the perseverance and the patience of the UN and also of a Biden administration who is yet to take the reins on the Libya file. And it could be an interesting, next 12 months. There are other things that we haven't mentioned. There are foreign mercenaries and foreign bases on Libya's soil. They haven't been expelled yet. So there's so much to kind of unpack here that we're going to have to wait and see.
Absolutely, a very complicated issue. Anas El-Gomati, thanks so very much indeed for joining us.